Picture the wall between your bedroom and the next room over. Half an inch of drywall, some air, half an inch more. Now picture the round you keep in your home defense rifle going through it. Because if you ever have to use that rifle, there's a good chance it will. Hold 2 cartridges up against that wall in your mind. A little 5.56, the one your AR eats, and a 30-08, fat and heavy, more than double the bullet. Ask a room full of men which one stops a threat better, and most of them point at the big one without thinking, because bigger is better. The heavy bullet wins. And inside the walls of your own house, that answer can get someone you love killed. That's not a figure of speech. The round most men assume is the safe, serious defensive choice is the one most likely to go through the bad guy, through the wall behind him, through the next wall, and into the bedroom where your family is sleeping. Most of the 5.56 versus 30-08 fight you've heard happens at a shooting bench, where the only thing on the other side of the target is a dirt berm. Nobody gets hurt if you're wrong there. But the rifle you keep for the dark doesn't live at the range. It lives in a house with people you love sleeping down the hall with a neighbor's wall 40 feet past yours, and that changes every part of the math. Now there are 2 questions instead of 1. Does the round stop the man, and where does it go after it does? Get the first one wrong, and the threat keeps coming. Get the second one wrong, and you've put a hole in someone who was never part of the fight. Most men only ever think about the first question. By the end of this, you'll know the answer to both, down to which bullet to load, not just which caliber. So ask yourself one thing right now, before we go further. When you picture using a rifle to defend yourself, where are you standing? In a hallway in your house? On your porch looking at the yard? Out at the tree line of your property? Hold that picture, because it's the single thing that decides this whole question, and almost nobody asks it before they pick a round. First, what stopping a threat actually means, because the word gets thrown around wrong. Start here, because everything else is built on it. Stopping a threat doesn't mean knocking a man off his feet like in the movies, and it doesn't mean the size of the hole. A determined attacker is stopped one of 2 ways. You hit something that drops him immediately, the brain or the upper spine, or you make him bleed fast enough that he loses the pressure to keep coming. That second one is what almost always does it, and it depends entirely on the wound, on how much tissue the bullet destroys, and how deep it reaches the things that matter. The medical people who study this for a living, the doctors and the federal labs, settled on a standard. A defensive bullet needs to drive somewhere between 12 and 18 inches deep into tissue to reliably reach the vitals from any angle, and it needs to do real damage along the way. Anything less, and you risk a wound that doesn't stop a man before he reaches you. Hold on to that number, 12 to 18 inches, because it turns out to be the key to the whole over-penetration question we're getting to. And it's the thing that makes the marketing fall apart. Now, how the little round actually stops a threat, because it's not what it looks like. Here's the part that surprises people. That tiny 5.56 bullet, 55 or 62 grains, looks like nothing. It's a varmint-sized projectile. And yet, it's been dropping men in combat for 60 years, and the reason is not the hole it pokes. It's what the bullet does once it's inside. When a 5.56 is moving fast enough, it doesn't just drill a clean channel. It turns sideways, it yaws, and a standard military bullet then breaks apart, fragments, and those fragments tear outward through tissue and create a wound far larger than the bullet's diameter. Dr. Martin Fackler, the Army's Wound Ballistics Authority, the man who did the actual science on this, documented exactly that. A small bullet making a large, ragged, devastating wound through fragmentation. That's how the little round stops a threat. Not by being big, by coming apart violently inside the target and wrecking everything around its path. But, and here's the part the marketing leaves in the small print, All of that depends on speed. Here's the limitation you have to understand, because it's the whole key to the 5.56. That violent fragmentation only happens above a certain impact velocity, roughly 2,700 feet per second. Above that speed, the bullet comes apart and does its terrible work. Below it, the same bullet tends to just poke through, yaw a little maybe, but stay in one piece and behave like a little ice pick instead of a grenade. And a 5.56 sheds speed as it flies, so it drops below that fragmentation threshold somewhere past a couple hundred yards, and even sooner out of a short-barreled rifle that never got it up to full speed in the first place. So the 5.56 is at its absolute most devastating up close, from a full-length barrel, which, and hold this thought, is exactly the home defense distance. Inside your house, across a room, that little round is at the very peak of its powers. That matters enormously in a minute. If you'd rather know the why under the bullet than just have somebody shout a caliber at you, that's the whole point of this channel, so subscribe. Now, the big round. How the 3008 stops a threat, which is the opposite approach entirely. The 3008 does its job the simple, honest way, the way nobody argues about, because it doesn't depend on any trick. It fires a bullet 2 to 3 times the weight of the 5.56, carrying around 2,500 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, nearly double what the little round makes. It drives deep, it punches through muscle and bone without being deflected, and a proper soft point or hunting bullet opens up wide and crushes a large channel through everything in its way. It does not need to be going 2,700 feet per second to work. It does not need to fragment. It carries enough mass and enough energy that it stops a threat at 50 yards, the same way it stops one at 300 by sheer force and penetration. That's the 3008's whole argument, and it's a strong one. The 5.56 has to be moving fast to earn its keep. The 3008 doesn't have to be doing anything special. It just has to hit, and the size and the weight do the rest, the same way at 50 yards as at 300. For raw threat-stopping power, especially as range opens up or the threat is big and determined or behind something, the heavy round wins clean. So if the big round hits harder and works at any range, the argument's over, right? Pick the 3008. That's where most people stop thinking, and it's exactly where they get it wrong. Here's the truth the title promised you. Over-penetration and what's really behind that wall. This is the part that flips the whole thing, and I'm going to give it to you with the actual test data instead of the bumper sticker, because there's a popular belief here that's only half true, and the half that's wrong is dangerous. The common wisdom you've heard is that a 5.56 is the safe choice indoors, because it's moving so fast it fragments the instant it hits drywall and turns to dust before it can hurt anyone in the next room. That sounds great. It's also, for standard ammunition, mostly false. The men who actually shoot rounds through stacked walls for a living, the testing outfits, found that a standard 5.56 military bullet, the common 55 grain, will punch through 4 interior walls and keep going. One famous test put it plainly: when you're shooting rifles, walls are concealment, not cover. So no, a regular 5.56 does not politely vanish in your drywall. But here's where it gets interesting, and where the truth actually lives. It depends almost entirely on the bullet, not the caliber. Those same tests showed that light, thin-jacketed, fast-expanding 5.56 bullets, the frangible and varmint-style rounds, blow apart in the first sheet or two of drywall and dramatically reduce how far they travel. And modern purpose-built defensive 5.56 loads are designed to thread exactly this needle, to wreck a threat, but shed energy fast in a wall. Meanwhile, the 3008, that heavy sledgehammer, sails through interior walls almost unaffected. Terminal performance nearly unchanged from open air. Read that again, because it's the whole video. Inside a house, the big round is the over-penetration danger, decisively. The heavy bullet that's so good at driving through cover to reach a threat is the same bullet that drives through your walls to reach whoever's behind them. The thing that makes the 3008 a great stopper outdoors makes it the riskier round under your own roof. And here's the honest part that ties it together, the part the marketing won't tell you. Remember that 12 to 18-inch number, the depth a bullet needs to reliably stop a threat. Any round powerful enough to meet that standard, any round that will actually stop a determined man, will also go through interior drywall. There is no magic bullet that stops a threat, but politely halts at the wall. It does not exist. The drywall in your house is not cover, and it never was. So the goal isn't a round that won't overpenetrate, because that round can't stop a threat either. The goal is to manage the risk, to pick the round that does the most to a body and the least to a wall, and to know that you are always responsible for that round, even after it does its job. If straight talk like that, the part the ammo box leaves off, is what you came for, subscribe, because there's a new one of these every day. That's the truth. So here's how you actually use it. Now let's put it together, because the right answer depends on where you were standing in that picture I asked about. Go back to where you pictured yourself. Inside the house, across a room, that's the most common defensive reality for most men. And here the 5.56 is genuinely the smarter choice, and not for the reason people think. It's the most controllable, lets you make fast, accurate follow-up shots under the worst stress of your life. It's at the absolute peak of its fragmenting power at across-the-room distance, and loaded with the right defensive or frangible bullet, it does more to stop the threat and less to overpenetrate than the heavy round does. The 3008 indoors is a lot of recoil, a lot of blast in an enclosed space, and a serious overpenetration liability. So for the man defending the inside of a home with the right bullet, the 5.56 is the thinking answer. Now, move outward. On the porch, across the yard, where the threat might be behind a car or a fence or 40 yards out, the picture starts to shift. The 5.56 is still fast enough to fragment out there, but the 3008's penetration through cover starts to matter, because a threat behind a car door is a threat the heavy round can reach and the light one might not. And out at the tree line of your property, across real distance, against a big determined threat or one behind hard cover, the 3008 is the answer. Full stop. That's the range where the 5.56 has dropped below its fragmentation speed and turned into an ice pick, and where the heavy round is still carrying the energy and the penetration to end it. The farther out and the harder the cover, the more the answer swings to the big round. So here's the real truth, and it's better than picking a side. There is no perfect threat-stopping caliber. There's a perfect match for your situation, and the man who understands that is far more dangerous, in the good sense, than the man who just bought the biggest round he could find. If your fight is inside your home, a 5.56 with a quality defensive load is the controllable, effective, lower over-penetration choice. And the men who guard hostages and clear houses for a living carry exactly that, for exactly these reasons. If your fight reaches across distance, through cover, against the biggest threats, the 3008 is the hammer, and you accept its recoil and its penetration as the price of that power. And the single most important variable isn't even the caliber. It's the bullet you load and what's standing behind your target. A 5.56 with the wrong bullet over-penetrates. A 5.56 with the right bullet is one of the best home defenders made. Same rifle, same caliber, completely different outcome, decided by the cartridge you chose at the store. So tell me what you actually run, because the comment section is where this one gets settled. For the men who keep a rifle by the bed, what's in the chamber tonight? The 5.56 or the 3008? And what load specifically? And then the question nobody likes to answer out loud. Have you ever once walked the path that bullet would take, past the target, through the bedroom wall, into the next house, or did you pick a caliber off a forum and never think about it again? That's the part that separates a man who's ready from a man who just owns a gun. Drop your load and your reasoning below. I read every one of them. And if thinking past the muzzle is how you were raised to handle a firearm, you'll want the next one of these. So subscribe before you go. Then do two things tonight. Check what's loaded in your rifle, and walk outside and look at exactly what's standing behind the spot you'd be shooting toward, because that's the part the argument always forgets, and it's the part that matters most once the shooting's real.